UFC 309 is upon us, and we're going to break down every single fight on this card. But first, got a couple of things I need to mention. If you're not interested in that, you just are here for the breakdowns. Maybe it's your first time here, no big deal. Timestamps are in the description. You can check those out. But speaking of the description, there's also something else down there, and that's the Patreon. Guys, the Patreon is where I post my bets, my notes, my picks with confidence ratings, things like that. Something I want to mention, guys, we had another positive night at UFC Vegas 100. That's what we've been doing. And I need to point this out because last year, we closed out the year looking fantastic, right? We did great last year. Awesome. But then at the start of 2024, we just kind of kept doing this, just going down, just losing until I believe it was June 8th of this year. I believe it was the bottom point of this. It was the Imavov Cannoneer card. And we're losing. We're down like 15 to between 15 and 20, like 15, 16, 17, 18, something like that units on the year. We were just not doing well. And then I figured out what I was doing wrong. I'm not going to bore you with the details there, but I figured out what I was doing wrong and why that was happening and why it was so different than the results from the year prior. And things changed. And since then, it's just been up. We've been doing, we've had like a losing card here and there, but it's rare now because we pick our spots better. We've got what we're looking for, and we're pretty conservative with our bets. We don't go crazy, but we're winning weekly, typically. I mean, like I said, very rarely do we not. Even that UFC Paris card that most people lost, technically we scraped out a little bit of a profit, which is fantastic. So, guys, I just want to highlight that because if you're interested in those type of things, if you're interested in betting, if you're interested in kind of seeing where my confidence lies on each pick, the Patreon is in the description, and you guys can join that there. It's fairly affordable, different price ranges for different stuff, but the most expensive anyone ever joins is the $9.99. There is technically a $50 per month thing, but that's for the generous people that it doesn't really get you anything that, it's very specialized, okay? But otherwise, the $9.99 is what you're going to look at. Either way, I look forward to seeing some of you guys over there. We've had a lot of people joining lately, and they've been happy. The chat's been going well over on the Patreon, so thank you guys. But check out all the links in the description. Either way, we're done with that. Let's go. Flyweights next. Veronica Hardy takes on Eduarda Moura. Now, both of these ladies are 4-1 in their last 5 fights, and I've got to be honest, this was actually the toughest fight on the card for me to call. I've gone back and forth on this one many times, but we're going to break it down, and I'll give you my reasons why. So for Eduarda Moura, she's coming off the loss, the first one in her career, to Diniz Gomes, who's a pretty good fighter in her own right, so there's no real shame there. But it showed she didn't really have the striking. And as you see, we don't really know much about her striking because she hasn't really shown a lot in her striking. She has straight punches to close the distance, but she's looking to grapple. That's what she's looking to do. The grappling is her best path. I would say I would give her a higher mark on the grappling, but she failed a ton of takedowns in that Gomes fight. But the thing that I did like is she was willing to shoot the takedowns just continuously. She doesn't waste any time going for takedowns. She's got good control when she gets it to the mat, and she's going to look for the finish. The ground and pound is there, and I love the use of the elbows. On the other side, we have Veronica Hardy, who is going to be the far better striker here. She's got good movement. She's quick. Her punches, her kicks, they're all fast, good combinations, and she can kick to all levels. However, the grappling has been, a bit of a problem for her. She offensively has some decent takedowns, decent top pressure, but defensively she does get taken down. And I think that's what we see here. I've got to go with Eduarda Moura to get the bounce back here. I think she's going to be able to beat Veronica Hardy by getting the takedowns. Maybe we see a finish, or maybe we see Moura kind of win 2 out of the 3 rounds just using the grappling and just surviving on the feet against Hardy, because Hardy doesn't have like that super heavy one-punch power. So we're going to go with the girl in Eduarda Moura, who's moving up to this division, yet still the bigger fighter. So we're taking Moura. Let me know what you guys think. So next, Oban Elliott takes on Bassil Hafez. Now, Hafez is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He's taking on Elliott, who is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Now, in this one here, Hafez, good striker. He's got pretty good power. It's kind of knockdown style power. You don't see him get a lot of one-shot, put your lights out type of KOs, but he does have good knockdown power. He can follow it up from there. He throws good 1-2. Occasionally, he gets into the habit of just 1, maybe 2 strikes at a time. Nothing beyond that. Not 3, 4, 5 combination type punches. It's more just 1 or 1-2, which is fine. It's just I'd like to see him expand that a little bit as he goes. He's got a good leg kick. With the grappling, he's got good volume on his takedowns. I do like that. I think he's a skilled grappler overall. I think he's got good back takes, and he's got very good scrambles in that in the in betweens and things like that. Hafez is usually good at using the scramble to get to the back take that I mentioned before. Now, for Elliott, he's not a better striker than Hafez. He's just decent, but his volume and his durability really help him out because the dude's got a ton of heart. And he can just eat whatever, and while you're trying to cave his head in, like, he just keeps coming at you. So that's impressive. But he does get backed up. He's a good grappler. We saw him showcase that a bit in his last fight, where he's got really solid takedown defense, but also he can get good takedowns underneath his opponent's strikes when they're coming up top trying to hit him. He'll duck under those and get that takedown. As well as that is when he gets the fight to the mat, his ground and pound's pretty good. Honestly, in this one here, this is a situation where I think the technically better fighter isn't going to win the fight, because I think Hafez is the better fighter technically, but I think just that grit and just ability to kind of endure and then just put a pace on an opponent is what's going to get the win for Oban Elliott. I think he's going to put a pace on Hafez. I think he's going to land more. I think he's going to get hit quite a bit, but I think he's going to be able to get the takedowns, and I think he's going to be able to do what he needs to do to get the win, probably on the scorecards. But let me know what you guys think. All right, folks, we got a weird one in the welterweight division, a fight where typically you can just pick the other side for both of these guys, but they're fighting each other, so we can't do that here. We have Gall taking on Ramiz Brahimaj. Now, Brahimaj is 2-3 in his last 5 fights, 1-4 in the last 5 for Gall. That's rough for both of these guys. But for Brahimaj, he's pretty much a grappler and a jiu-jitsu style grappler at that. Very solid in that jiu-jitsu, don't get me wrong. He has 10 wins, all of which are by submission. So he attacks the submissions very well. He's very active from his back. But it's what he needs to do, is use his grappling. On the feet, his grappling threat is kind of something that'll set up some power shots every now and then, but he doesn't hit hard enough to just turn your lights off. Obviously, that's why he doesn't get any wins by knockout, but he does have decent power. He can hit you a little bit, but his cardio just falls off a cliff pretty quick too, and that's a problem for him. On the other side, Gall. He's got good grappling, mostly his wrestling, right? He's got good takedowns, good ground and pound. The back takes are there. The rear naked choke is his best submission. He goes to it quite a bit. In fact, most of his wins are rear naked chokes. Decent striking. He's got decent power. I would say that I know I have both of them listed as decent. I'm being very generous with Brahimaj. Gall's a decent striker. He's the better striker of the two, and he's going to have better cardio of the two, but pure grappling is going to go to Brahimaj. Honestly, I just don't see somebody that's so submission reliant getting the win at a high clip, so I have to take Gall. Plus, I like the cardio advantage. But by golly, I don't know if I want to bet on this fight. Let me know what you guys think. I will division here for a fight that was added on somewhat short notice, where Jhonata Diniz, who was originally going to take on Derek Lewis a couple of weeks back, steps in undefeated, 5-0 in his last 5, to take on Marcin Tybura. A little bit different stylistic matchup. Tybura is 3-2 in his last 5, but this is a big step up in competition for Diniz and something of a step down for Tybura, because Tybura has been fighting some of the best guys in the division, including the current interim champion in Tom Aspinall. He's a real champion, guys. Tom Aspinall's a real champion. But either way, I'd probably just angered a few John Jones fans. Jhonata Diniz, he is a solid striker, and I don't think anybody is going to say that he's going to be at a striking disadvantage here. The guy's a far better striker than Tybura, and that's just the way that it is. He strikes well to all levels. He's got good power, good combinations. His knees up the middle are very strong. Defensively, for a heavyweight, he's pretty good. Like, defense in the heavyweight division is usually just kind of lacking, but he's pretty good defensively. However, the grappling is his biggest hole because he comes from a kickboxing background, and you don't really train grappling in kickboxing. That's just how that works. He has average takedown defense, I would say, and that might even be a little bit of an embellishment. I don't know that it's very good, but we're going to give him that because we have seen him defend takedowns before. But once he gets taken down, he can be held down, and like most heavyweights, they have a hard time getting back to their feet, especially the bigger side of heavyweight. Now, when we look at Tybura, he's not the better striker here, but he is decent. He's got decent power, and he strikes well on his way into close distance, right? He's got good wrestling, and that's what he's going to need to do to get this fight to the winning column, because what he's going to need to do is get the takedowns or use the cage push. He has good top pressure when he does get the fight down, but he also has good pressure up against the cage. He's a bit of a grinder. He has good ground and pound, don't get me wrong. He can use that to get the win. But he's also content just to grind opponents out and win the fight that way. And that is what I see him doing here. I think we're going to have to go with Marcin Tybura. I think it's too big of a step up in competition, too early for Diniz. He needed to get that takedown defense better before he gets this win. So for me, It's Tybura. It's the right time for him. Let me know what you guys think. A couple of veterans of the UFC here. We have Damon Jackson taking on Jim Miller. Now, this is Jackson moving up to 155 pounds. He's been fighting down at 145. It's a very, very tough weight cut for him. So now he's coming up to 155, which I think is actually a good move for him. Jackson's 2-3 in his last 5 fights, 3-2 for Jim Miller. Both guys coming off of pretty rough losses. However, Jackson's opponent did cheat, missed weight by a decent amount, and used that as a pretty good advantage. But we'll leave that for what it is. We're going to look at this matchup instead. Now, for Damon Jackson, decent striker. He's got good long straight punches. He's got good front kicks. It's definitely used to set up his wrestling, and because that's what he wants to do, and that's how he wins fights, right? He's a solid wrestler with good takedowns that are set up by that striking. Like I said, he'll come in with the straight punches and then boom, shoot down for that takedown. Does a good job with that. Good scrambles, good control once he gets on top, and when he takes your back, you're in some serious trouble because he's not falling off. He's taking the back, he's keeping it, and he's going to hold it for as long as he needs to. Whether he gets a submission or not, that's definitely possible, but he can also just stay there for the rest of the round. On the other hand, Jim Miller, he's going to be the better striker by a little bit, I would say. He's a pretty good striker with good combinations, but they're very basic combinations. He can put together like a 1-2-3 type of thing. You know what I mean? Like it's real simple stuff. He sticks to the basics, and that's a good thing. The guy's got good fight IQ. He's shown that in the past, but he doesn't have a ton of he's not doing anything super flashy. But at this point in his career, he doesn't need to, right? Decent power. Got good leg kicks. I mean, we've seen him just recently start to get more power in his career, which is, like as you get older, old man strength, right? I mean, maybe that's it. I don't know. But either way, he's got some decent power. Good grappling. He's got very good transitions on the mat, and he's a guillotine specialist, which isn't really the best thing. I'd be surprised if he guillotines Damon Jackson, but it's not impossible. I would just be surprised. For me, I think that the move up to 155 is going to really be a big time help for Damon Jackson. And because of that, I think he's going to get the win. I think he's going to be able to out grapple and out wrestle Jim Miller and win the fight that way. And I think on the feet, it's going to be close enough that Jackson's able to do what he needs to do there. So we're taking Damon Jackson, but little caveat for you guys. I'm a huge Damon Jackson fan. He's one of my favorite fighters. There's no video on the channel of my top 5 favorite fighters in the UFC. 2 of them are on this card, one of which is Damon Jackson. Love that dude. He's fantastic. But let me know who you have in this one. And I'm 185 pounds for our next one here. Chris Weidman takes on Eryk Anders. And both of these guys are 2-3 in their last 5 fights. Neither is looking career best at this point, but we're here, right? Both guys are later in their career. We know that. It's a big fight, though. I mean, you got the hometown guy in Chris Weidman taking on, a guy in Eryk Anders, who this is probably the biggest fight of his career as far as like name value. So when we look at this one for Anders, good striker. He's got good forward pressure, good power. He will get in a brawl. He's willing to eat one to give one, and typically he's pretty durable. Now, I understand he was dropped in his last fight, but he did recover, and he did go on to win the fight. So I get his durability might be fading, but you still see he's shown durability in the past, so maybe it's fading, or maybe that was just a one-off. So it's hard to say. That's why there's a little question mark there if you can't see that. He's a good wrestler as well, mostly the counter wrestling, because he will make people really pay for failed takedowns. Because if you miss a takedown, this dude is willing to just throw whatever, and big kicks, big knees. We've seen him get disqualified for hitting a guy that was technically a downed opponent in the past. We've also seen him time it just right and boot someone's head off, which is when I became a big fan of Eryk Anders. But he's also got a good cage push. He can grind on guys there, land some strikes, do what he needs to do. But realistically, this dude is a freak athlete, so he can kind of make things happen just with that athleticism. Even at 37, I think he is. He can still get it done with the athleticism. On the other side, Chris Weidman, a grizzled veteran. Decent striker. He's got a good jab. Power's decent. Eye pokes are good, but, whatever. We'll see if that plays a factor here. Solid wrestling, solid takedowns, and good top control once he gets there. Ultimately, this fight for me is who do I think has more left in the tank, and who do I think is probably going to be able to come back with some new wrinkles in their game in this one, and who do I think is going to come back with less than they had last time. I think Eryk Anders gets this one done. I think he's a better fighter. I think he's got more left in the tank. Also, like I said, I had 2 fighters on this card that are a couple of favorites of mine. Eryk Anders is one of them. In fact, at the end of this video, I'll put up the interview I did with him a while back. Eryk's the man. Big fan of him. He's been on the channel. Great time interviewing him, a year ago. But watch that after this video. Not now. Watch that after the video. But let me know who you think in the comments. Matchup here in the bantamweight division. Jonathan Martinez takes on Marcus McGhee. Now, both of these guys are what I would call prospects, even though McGhee is a bit older. He's still young in his career, only 10 fights. He's 5-0 in his last 5 fights. The guy's been on fire since coming to the UFC, but the level of competition has been pretty low level compared to a guy like Jonathan Martinez. It's a big step up for McGhee. Jonathan Martinez taking a little step back. He went up there, lost his recent fight with Jose Aldo. No shame. Jose Aldo's one of the best to ever do the thing, so it makes sense. But I mean, the guy's fought much better competition in the UFC than the schedule from McGhee. But with that said, Jonathan Martinez, we're going to see where he's at in his career against a guy that is now making that step up. We have no reason to believe he can't. We just, we don't know. So this fight's going to help us find out. For Marcus McGhee, good striker. Guy's got really fast hands, plenty of power, puts together good combinations, and he's going to come forward and just kind of make fights, a fight. That's what he does. He comes forward, makes it a fight, and tries to throw hands with you. Now, if he goes to the grappling, he's good there as well. He's got very good scrambles, and he can sweep extremely well from the bottom. He also has shown the ability in the past with, I believe, only 1 win, but he has the ability to go for a submission, so we have that there. His takedown defense is great. He gets back to his feet if he wants to. This matchup, I think he's going to be the one offensively grappling rather than Martinez, so I do think that this is kind of just an extra thing on the board, but either way, it's there to know. For Martinez, dude's probably the cleaner striker. Doesn't hit quite as hard, but he's a cleaner striker, I would say. He's got very good kicks. I mean, the leg kick is what we know mostly, but he can kick to all levels. He's got a good body kick. He can snap it up to the head when he needs to, but that leg kick is obviously what he's known for. He strikes to a game plan, which is something I really like for Martinez. He sticks to that game plan, strikes his way through that progression, whether that's take out the legs or whether it's use the leg kick to set up the body kick or whether it's, get somebody biting on the leg kick to then go. It stems from the body or from the leg kick, right? It stems from the leg kick, but he strikes with a game plan. Good volume, good combinations. Like I said, he's probably the cleaner striker of the two. He's got good jiu-jitsu as well, good sweeps, good scrambles, very much like McGhee. But I think offensively, McGhee's going to probably have a better edge in the grappling. One thing I like for Martinez, though, is he has proven cardio. The guy can go as long as he needs to in this 15-minute fight, in this 3-round fight. I almost said 15-round fight. That'd be crazy. McGhee, we haven't really seen that, right? We haven't really seen him fall apart or anything. We just haven't seen it, so we don't know. For me, I don't like the stuff outside of the cage for Martinez right now. His gym fell apart. There's big separation there. He's left Factory X. He's now doing his own thing. He's got his own gym going, it sounds like. He's coming off of his, first loss in a while. I got to go with McGhee. It's really close. I would recommend passing on this fight. This one could go either way, and I don't feel good about it. So let me know what you guys think. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. We've got a couple of strikers here in the lightweight division. Mauricio Ruffy takes on Hafez Llontop. Llontop is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, 5-0 for Ruffy. Now, in this one here, Llontop, he's a good striker. He's got good boxing combinations. He's got a good leg kick as well that he uses to set up the body kick. So I like that for the kicks. But the combinations typically come in the boxing form. He works the body very well, and he's got pretty good knees to go along with it all. In the grappling department, offensively, he's pretty good, right? He's got a good cage push where he works the elbows, so it's kind of a dirty boxing style. And then in the ground and pound, he makes every shot count. Let's put it that way. He gets you to the mat, and, usually from dropping you on the feet. And when he goes down there, he's not just swinging wild. He's picking his shots, making them count, heavy elbows, things like that. On the Ruffy side, dude's a solid striker. Tons of power, super accurate with his strikes. He doesn't always have the best volume, but he makes what he does throw count for what it's worth. He makes it count for a lot, right? Strikes up the middle. He's got a good 1-2. He's got a good front kick. And the thing I like is defensively, he kind of rolls his shoulders to defend shots and uses the shoulder block as well as rolling with the punches, things like that. Defensively in the takedown department, he's shown pretty good takedown defense there as well. But we don't know much about his grappling offensively. He typically prefers to strike. And we've got a small sample size. Like I've said, he's 5-0 in his last 5, but he's 10-1 on the career. So not a ton of fights, especially at the UFC level or levels where you can actually see those fights. Now, in this one, in a striking matchup, which I believe this to be, I've got to go with Ruffy. So we're going to take him. I know he's like a -900 favorite, so it makes sense. But we're taking Ruffy in this one. Let me know what you guys think. And flyweights next. Karine Silva takes on Viviane Araujo. Now for Araujo, she is 2-3 in her last 5 fights, 5-0 in the last 5 for Silva. Interesting matchup here. Araujo's been around the UFC for quite some time. Silva, she's newer to the promotion, but she's making a lot of waves. She's got some good wins, things like that. She's working her way up the ladder. Let's start on the Araujo side. She's a good striker, decent power, but good hand speed. You like to see that. Good counter striking ability, good leg kicks, but sometimes our striking defense can be a bit laxed. She's looking for the counter and not so much on the stop in the first shot. So sometimes she can be a little lax in the defense. Grappling wise, she's got good grappling overall, good takedown defense. Offensively, she can get the takedowns, all right. She's decent on the takedowns. Once she gets on top, though, her ground and pound's pretty darn good. Her problem is sometimes she fades in fights, and she kind of seems to be fading a bit earlier than she used to as well. So that could be a problem for her there. On the other side, for Karine Silva, good striker with tight defense on the feet. She kind of strikes in bursts, so she'll kind of like strike, break, strike, break. Or she'll get to a takedown or a clinch or something like that, so she can get a takedown. That's also an option after the strikes. Good power. She's got solid grappling, though. This is where she gets it done. She drags her opponents to the mat however she needs to get them there, whether it be a standard traditional style takedown or just gets a hold of them and just rips them to the ground. She aggressively attacks submissions, and she has absolutely nasty ground and pound. Now, we've seen her go to decision and show that she can do that and show that she has decent cardio. So I do think that she's going to have the cardio edge. I think she's going to have a bit of a grappling edge. And I think on the feet, it's close. So all that said, I've got to go with the prospect in Karine Silva. I think she's the real deal, and I think she gets this one done. So we're taking Karine Silva. Let me know what you think. And match up next at 185 pounds. Bo Nickal takes on Paul Craig. And guys, real quick, as you can see, my marker is starting to run out here. I'll be switching markers for the next breakdown. But the reason I mention that is it's a good chance for me to highlight the channel members. Channel members, it's only $2.99 a month. You get access to some cool little emojis and a little badge next to your name. You don't really get a whole lot. Occasionally you'll get a video like a day early, something like that, but it's not all the time. But what it does is the channel members, that money goes directly to buying new markers, changing the light bulbs, things like that. So the channel members, you are all greatly appreciated. There's a special place in my heart for you guys. It's not a big money commitment. So if you just want to help out, but you're not really convinced and, I don't need to join the Patreon. I want to make my own bets. I don't want to look at all that stuff. But I wouldn't mind throwing a couple bucks his way to help him get some markers, help him get the light bulbs, all the good stuff that keeps the channel running. Channel members. That's just a short shout out for that. Either way, let's get back to this fight. Bo Nickal takes on Paul Craig. Paul Craig is 1-4, not 4-1. 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Obviously, Bo Nickal 6-0. He's undefeated. So 5-0 in the last 5. With Paul Craig, he is a jiu-jitsu specialist. That is what he does, right? The dude's going to pull guard. He's willing to work from his back. And those are usually bad things, but Paul Craig from his back is much better than most. And he's more dangerous than most because he's beaten guys that he had no business beating just from his back. And some of the better guys at the 205-pound division, which is where he fought most of his fights, he's recently switched to 185. Here he is now trying to get a little resurgence. Obviously, he's not doing the best in his last 5. But the dude's extremely dangerous in the back. He can land strikes from there, but the triangles are what really get it done for him. The guy's a triangle specialist. If he's going to win a fight, it's a triangle or a triangle armbar. That is what he's going for. And there's a real possibility he gets that here. I mean, if anybody is going to try to take someone down, it's Bo Nickal. The guy's a fantastic wrestler, which we'll cover in a minute. But if you're taking down Paul Craig, there's that added risk. The added risk is involved of the triangle, and that's where it comes from. So Paul Craig, live dog here for sure. He's a massive underdog, as you know. He can strike well when he's feeling confident. We saw moments of it when I believe it was the Ozdemir fight where you're like, oh, okay, Craig's throwing some good shots. He looks pretty good, but yeah, he's rarely confident in his striking, but in moments, he'll show something where it looks all right. His striking defense is poor, and he used to be pretty durable and be able to eat shots, but his durability is really starting to fade on him, and that is a big problem for him because he can't get by with that durability anymore. Bo Nickal, really raw prospect. And I think people are kind of harder on him than they should be because they're like, oh, he's supposed to be, destroying all these guys. He's massive. He can't pick the lines. He's a 6-0 fighter. He was 5-0 last time he fought, and people were like, this guy, he underperformed. He won the fight pretty comfortably. He only had 5 fights, so give him a break a little bit. You know what I mean? I understand that he's in the UFC and he needs to level up his game to match that accordingly. But at the same time, who on the regional, it's hard. It's gonna be hard for this guy to find regional fights. So the UFC kind of had to act also before other promotions tried to sweep him up. It is what it is. It's a special circumstance just because of Bo Nickal's wrestling background. Now, he's got high level wrestling. He does a really good job of feinting his takedowns. He gets opponents to freeze and bite on those takedowns, or at least to fakes. Excellent takedowns with near perfect entries when he does decide to shoot. I understand he failed a couple takedowns against Brundage. It is what it is. Brundage is a pretty good wrestler in his own right, even though nobody likes the guy. I understand the talent that is there. That Brundage isn't terrible. He was able to defend a few takedowns. Ultimately, Nickal still got the job done. He has a growing submission game. We've seen him do some more grappling competitions throughout his time, I guess. We've seen him really working on the jiu-jitsu, and that's kind of what he needs to do to put together with his awesome wrestling skill set is that jiu-jitsu. A lot of guys would just go to striking. Cool and all, but if you can submit guys on the ground after you've got the wrestling to get them there every time, that's going to be a really big weapon. So ground and pound would be good, don't get me wrong, but the fact that he's got the submission arsenal coming along, that's going to help him a lot. Now, on the feet, he has decent striking. He's got pretty good power. We've seen him knock a couple of guys out, but also it's set up by the threat of the takedown. So a lot of times the wrestling threat makes it so you're too worried about the takedown to stop the strikes from coming over the top. And I think that's kind of what we're going to get here. But maybe not. Maybe Bo Nickal just wants to prove that he's a better grappler and he takes down Paul Craig. I think Bo's going to win it more often than not. But you always kind of just throw a couple dollars on Paul Craig by sub because you just kind of do, especially in a matchup where he's a massive underdog. So we're taking Bo Nickal. I feel like he probably gets to win. He's like a minus 1,000 favorite or whatever. So nothing crazy here. Let me know what you guys think. Jump into the main and co-main event. Guys, if you enjoyed this video thus far, if you've maybe learned a little something, do me a solid and hit that like button. I do appreciate it very much. It shows me that what I'm doing is working and that you guys are getting something out of these videos. So please do that for me. Hit the like button if you would. Now, real quick, I've already broken down the main and co-main events. So we're going to just kind of direct you to that. There's a playlist for UFC 309. I'm going to say it's right here where you can watch those. Both of them are in depth. And on the other side of me, there should be an Eryk Anders interview where I interview him. We talk for 15, 20 minutes or so. Really good interview, really fun time. So check that out if you want to watch that, or check out the in-depth breakdowns of the main and co-main if you haven't already. See you guys there.